Hi, everybody, and welcome to Seamlessly Transitioning to Oracle Fusion Cloud EF Education First Journey. I am Stephanie, and I will be moderating today's session. Before passing it off to our hosts, Pehr and Gareth, I just want to go over a couple things. So if you have any questions throughout the session, please feel free to add them into the chat, or there's a little Q&A box on the bottom of your screen. We'll be able to get to those at the end of the session. We will also have a survey afterwards, and we really appreciate your feedback. And this helps us just really tailor these sort of sessions to better suit everyone's interest. And like always, you will receive the recording of today's webinar at some point tomorrow, and we will send any other extra resources that we might have. But let's actually get to why we were here. So Gareth, would you like to take it away?
Great, thanks, Stephanie. My name's Gareth. I'm the EMEA sales manager here at More4apps. I've been helping customers improve their data loading processes for over 8 years, and I'd also like to extend a warm welcome to everybody on this webinar this afternoon. And as Stephanie mentioned, before we get into it, I'd love to just understand the audience and where you guys are in your transformation journey to Cloud ERP. So we're just going to launch a quick 2-question survey. Here it comes. If you don't mind just answering that quickly for us, and then we can get into it. Stephanie, if you can just let me know when that's finished.
We'll just give it a little bit of time, just in case everyone can find it. Give another couple seconds. Just because there's two. There's two questions,
Yeah, sure.
That's all. All right, last call. All right, I'll end it and I'll share the results. Okay. So a lot of people it's almost 50-50 on eBusiness and Fusion Cloud, and people are currently migrating, or at least fully migrated.
That's great to see. So, question 2 there, currently migrating. You guys are certainly in the right place, and I'm just going to kick off the session, take up 2 minutes of your time. Pehr, if you can go to the next slide. I'm just going to talk about some market insights, and then I'll hand over to Pehr to get into the session. But look, as the cloud ERP market continues to mature, we see more and more cloud migrations, as that survey just testimented to, either from on-prem customers or net new customers from old legacy systems. We know that business data is an end user's top focus, but the problem we have is the data is growing, and the methods of managing the data in Oracle are extremely difficult for end users. This can lead to inefficiencies and inaccuracies. So speaking to the Oracle community at the Cloud World events this year, organizations are telling us they simply need better and more tools so that end users can just get on with their jobs. Next slide, please, Pehr. Great. So what options do you guys have as Oracle customers? Well, you have the 3 options, which would typically involve consultants or technical people and more aligned to one-off use. They're not typically user-friendly and can lack functionality and flexibility. You then, of course, have the build option, which would involve large IT teams, requires time and resources up front, and will need ongoing support as requirements change and software updates. And then finally, you've got the buy option. Yes, this requires upfront spend. However, picking the right solution could save a considerable amount of time and money whilst giving the end users a solution they need. So on that note, I'm going to hand over to Pehr Karlsson to introduce himself and talk through his experiences when leading Education First's transformation journey to Cloud ERP. Over to you, Pehr.
All right. I'm struggling a bit with my presentation skills here. Hopefully that is limited to the technical skills and nothing else. So it's a pleasure to be here. So thank you, Gareth, for inviting me. And as you said, I've spent most of my career working for EF Education First. I've been in the finance function all of that time that I've been here. And the last 2 years, I've headed up a effort to roll out Oracle Fusion ERP for all of EF. And like some 60% of the people on this call, we are now in the cloud. We went live in January 1st, big bang, rolled it out worldwide in all of our countries all at once. And we're actually about to close our first fiscal year. So we end our fiscal year now in September. So we're right at the very hectically planning or working through our annual close as we speak. But it's great to take some time off from that and speak to you guys. So just very shortly, a little bit about EF, just so you understand the environment that I'm working in. So EF has been around for some 60 years. We started out teaching English, and we've added some businesses during the 60 years that we've been growing. So we have a tour operator business focusing, of course, on educational travel. We also have boarding schools, and we also have a very close cooperation with the Holt International Business Schools, providing both undergraduate, graduate, and postgraduate degrees. And of course, we also teach language online. So if you look in the App Store, you can find our English app for those who might be interested in that. So the background for the project. So for in the last 20 years something, EF was using a system called Coda Financials, and you may be forgiven if you don't know what system that is. It's owned by a company now called Unit 4. That was an on-premise system, so we had everything managed on site. And it was also what is called a unified ledger. And I'll get back to that a little bit later because it presented a bit of a challenge for us. It has been an extremely flexible system for EF. But I think it's safe to say that, during the 20 years that we've used it, just like you wouldn't use a cell phone for 20 years ago, you probably shouldn't be using an accounting system for 20 years ago. And unfortunately, Unit 4 decided not to sort of really develop that system. So that was one reason for us to change. And another reason to change was that we just, we grew tremendously over the last 20 years. So it was time for us to look for a different system. EF as a company has decided to have a full 100% cloud platform strategy. For many, many years, we've been working with Salesforce for all the customer-facing processes, but Oracle was sort of the new piece in this strategy, with a focus then on the back end. And it, we decided, we felt that it was not an option for us to do a gradual rollout of the Oracle ERP, but rather that we should opt for a big bang implementation. And yeah, you might think having Salesforce already in place, rolling out Oracle was a walk in the park, but honestly, it was maybe not a walk in the park. And what I think was interesting throughout this process, and remember, I'm a bean counter, I'm not a technical guy. I was astounded to see that any of the technical issues that we encountered in this process, integrating Oracle with Salesforce, or whatever, doing all the localization for all the different countries that we were working in, any of the technical issues really, really, really paled in comparison with the obstacles that we came across when it came to change management. And I think, just being able to handle the change, taking the business through the change and handling that internal communication was certainly something that I felt we underestimated when we went through this project. And I still think we paid a lot of attention to it from the get-go. But it seems like, whatever communication you plan for, you should just double it or triple it, because it just turns out in the end that it's not enough. And some of the background for that is that EF's finance organization is a worldwide organization. Like we said before, we're present in some 100 countries in throughout the world. And we've traditionally had a very decentralized organization with, very small teams having an end-to-end responsibility for the legal entities that they work with. As I mentioned before, we also worked in a system that has a unified ledger, so it doesn't work with subledgers. And it was interesting to see that it wasn't just old farts like me that was struggling with, making the switch to a modern system using multiple ledgers, but it was also a lot of our young accountants who had, they hadn't seen anything else than the unified ledger. So that managing that change and going through the process of just learning to work in a new system was definitely a big challenge. What we also had and still do is a lot of processes that rely on Excel uploads. Now we've been working very diligently to try to eliminate those. But there's still a lot of Excel uploads from local payroll systems and even from Salesforce. At EF, we don't use one instance of Salesforce. We work with multiple instances. We value the independence of the different divisions we have within EF. So it's actually doing downloads and uploads between systems is something that is still very central and something that we need to deal with. And what we managed to do in January when we went live is we managed to integrate some 70% of our turnover with the Oracle Accounts Receivable. So Salesforce, Oracle, about 70% of our turnover was taken care of with the integration. But that still left us with, roughly 30% of our turnover that still needs to be handled manually. It's not going to be like that forever, but it's going to be something that we need to deal with in the interim. So it's safe to say that, when you need to do uploads, Oracle can actually be quite difficult. And especially if you want your accountants to do the uploads. And so there's one option that is somewhat okay with Oracle, and it's something that's called ADFDI. I always say that wrong, so I apologize if I'm not saying that right. It's about as user-friendly as the abbreviation, but it's still somewhat okay. We use that for certain processes. It can be handled by accountants. But what's important to know with ADFDI is that it doesn't cover all the functionality within Oracle. And for us, as I mentioned before, the integration with the sales systems was important. And even though we built a solid integration for the majority of our transactions, there was still the smaller portion of the transactions that still needed to be handled. And especially a portion of EF that deals with B2B. Most of our business is B2C, but the portion of our business is B2B, and there we had some more intricate VAT treatments that we needed to be to handle correctly. So it was important for us to use the Oracle Accounts Receivable and integrate properly with the integration with the sales system. But it wasn't big enough that we made it our first technical priority. So, and that's when we wanted to do an Excel upload. And, the sort of somewhat user-friendly option of ADFDI is not available if you want to upload customer invoices. So we looked at the other option, which is something that Oracle calls FPDI. And please, in the chat, please don't ask me what these abbreviations stand for. I'm sorry, I don't remember that. FPDI is another way that Oracle, where you can use an Excel upload to Oracle. But what's interesting with that one is that even our tech guys, so even the tech team that was working with this, even the Oracle consultants that we had on the project, they were struggling with that particular format. So when I saw that, I immediately knew that, we're not going to use this. There's no way we can put our our accountants to use this particular way of uploading. So looking at the struggles and sort of summarizing that a little bit. So, uploading customer invoices. Oracle has this FPDI tool, but it's technically challenging. And why? Because for one reason, you need to use multiple sheets. So you will have typically like, one sheet for the header, one sheet for the lines, like that kind of thinking is what you need to navigate when you upload it. And that's easy maybe for the tech team to handle, but very difficult for an accountant team to sort of navigate. Another aspect is that there's no immediate feedback when you're in the spreadsheet. So if you use FPDI, you have to schedule a process to pick up the file. But there's no immediate feedback that tells you, oh yeah, this failed, or you forgot to populate this field or something like that. And that, again, has an impact on the usability and the day-to-day usability for the accountant team. All of these things, the fact that ADFDI had an option for uploading customer invoices, and the fact that FPDI was technically challenging, made me go out and sort of scour the market and say, hey, there must be somebody out there that has solved this particular problem. And that's really where I got in contact with, let's see if I can change my slide here. There we go. That's really when I got into contact with Gareth and More4apps. When I sort of looked at the solution that they offer in this space, I thought it was really, really interesting. So what made it interesting? Well, first of all, it takes care of some of those concerns that I had with FPDI. It has the APIs to be able to upload customer invoices, so that's good. It all happens in one sheet, so you don't have to manage multiple different sheets. You get immediate feedback in the sheet. So when you're trying to upload something and you forget to populate a field or something like that, you get feedback in the sheet and tells you what you did wrong. So what I saw was like, okay, I have this B2B business, smaller business within EF. I need to provide a solution for them so they can upload the invoices until we can prioritize them and create a different type of integration. And what I did then is I took two great accounting managers that we have. I paired them up with an Oracle consultant. And then, of course, some good people from Gareth's teams. And together, they implemented this in a matter of months. And really what took time was not hooking up More4apps. That was the quicker thing. You needed to create some user roles. You needed to upload a couple of OTBI reports in Oracle. But the piece that we were doing was we were also configuring the receivable side in Oracle. And that was the piece that was taking a little bit of time. We were rolling this out in 5 different countries, so not the 100 countries, but in 5 different countries. Italy was one of those countries. For those of you who know Italy, you know that it's lovely food and lovely wine, but the VAT laws are not lovely, and that has an impact on how you configure the system. So that piece took us a little bit of time, but the connection with More4apps was really quick. And the 2 accounting managers that I had, they very quickly learned how to use More4apps. One of the things that I personally liked was the fact that you could download an existing invoice. So when you download that existing invoice, you can kind of tell you very quickly see, like, okay, these are the fields that I need to populate. So when you prepare to upload your invoice, you just kind of, you populate the same fields, obviously with different values, and you upload that, and boom, you're ready to go. And the 2 accountants, they were really, they could travel, or actually didn't even need to travel. They did remote training with the 5 different teams, and were able to very quickly get them going and get them to use the More4apps solution to upload the invoices. And it's still being used today. We thought, I think I told Gareth, like, probably mid this year, we will have the integration up and running. Well, guess what? We just went live. We got plenty of other technical issues to solve. So the fact that we have this solution that's working, that's easy to use, is really great for us as we're rolling this out, continuing to roll out some other technical solutions. So really, this is what I had on my part.
Great stuff. Thanks, Pehr. Appreciate the insights into that transformation project and journey that you've just gone through. So just to round off the session, I guess, if you can go to the next slide, Pehr. Actually, I think it's the next one after that. Yeah, great. Just obviously we've brought you guys here this afternoon, so I really appreciate your time. So I just want to talk a little bit about More4apps. And for those of you who don't know, More4apps provides an Excel-based out-the-box data loading solution across multiple streams in Oracle Cloud. So how do we compare with a solution like FBDI? Pehr just alluded to it. Well, within FBDI, if you have experienced it, it feels like an archaic technology. No in-sheet validation or real-time feedback, as Pehr mentioned. Multiple spreadsheets with various data sections, and also no download functionality. All of this combined can make your data loading processes cumbersome, time-consuming, and labor-intensive for your end users. So look, if you have faced any FBDI challenges and looking for an end-user solution, please do reach out to us. We currently have functionality in product definition, projects, finance, and the procurement modules. So I do believe now we can hand back to Stephanie, and we can open the floor to any questions.
Yeah, if anybody has any questions, feel free to throw them in there. I have a couple. I think a lot of it's experience-based and stuff, but for Pehr, it's that if you had to highlight at least like one lesson learned from this migration, what would it be? That might be a difficult one since it's still kind of going, and like you said, there's still some technical difficulties, but what is one lesson learned that you would tell people?
Oh, I know that. I know exactly what and I was trying to highlight it earlier as well, because it's really to me that there were no technical issues that really at the end of the day were that challenging, but really the communication and just taking people through the change. I read somewhere that you need to tell people 5 to 7 times before they really take it in and understand. And I used to think like, surely that we have some bright people here at EF. They're flexible, they're dynamic. But that really, it has nothing to do with whether you're smart or what it is. It's just like, it can be difficult to go through these changes when what you are used to is changing. You need help to go through that change. And that for me was the biggest lesson learned, is like, I did not initially do nearly enough to help my users through that experience. And I was partly going through it myself as well, having worked at EF for 25 years and 20 of those in the same system. I was partly doing that journey myself as well. But if one piece of advice that I can give you guys is definitely do not underestimate the need to communicate with the users, do it frequently. And if you think that you have been repetitious, if you think you've said something too many times, you probably are still on iteration 3 or 4, and you still need to go through 5, 6, and 7 until everybody is on board.
Yeah, there's no such thing as overkill, basically, at that point.
That is really my experience from this. I said I thought I was being repetitious, but it turned out I wasn't repeating myself enough. And maybe in this conversation right now, you guys feel that I'm being repetitious, but in the project, that wasn't the case.
Great. We have more questions too. I don't know, Andrew, I might need to pull you in here. What were the client-side installations required to use More4apps with Fusion Cloud?
So
Gareth, do you know that, or should I pull it
I
in?
can
Yeah, you can
start with
start.
what I know, and then Andrew can correct me. But what I saw
Mhm.
was that you had to install a few user roles, which there were really good instructions for. And then there were a couple of OTBI reports that needed to be uploaded. And hopefully, Andrew, I didn't botch that too much.
No, that was right. Yeah, so it's pretty minimal on the PC. Hi everyone, I'm Andrew. I've just been sitting in the background, but I sort of provide some of the technical support for our products here. Exactly that. Yeah, so you'll install add-in to your Excel on the desktop, and that's everything on the desktop. And then you'll just need to do some user authorities within the Oracle system. Now that it's all cloud, there's no real admin maintenance tasks. Just set the user roles to use the web services that we call, and yeah, that's it. There's some reports for the downloads too, but it's very simple, and there's just repetitive kind of robotic instructions for that. Just take you about
Great.
an hour maximum.
So I had a junior tech guy with very little experience that did this, and he with the manuals that were provided and a few well-directed emails, he did this all by himself, and it wasn't like an experienced Oracle consultant or anything like that. So it was a simple setup.
Great. I have another question. Did you use More4apps to upload AP invoices with invoice images / copies as attachments into Fusion Cloud?
So we decided not to do that. So we basically did not have a need for on the supplier side. So we used the Oracle functionality where you just email the invoice into the system, and then the system sort of picks up the invoice and processes it from there. So we didn't have it wasn't a use case for us to needing to do that. Customer side, it was a different story. But not on the supplier side, we didn't have that.
But just on that, we do support that. So when you're creating a payables invoice, you can put the attachments and just pick the file from the file chooser, or put the path into the spreadsheet cell like any other piece of data, and it'll find the file and send it up with the invoice.
Great. Okay, I do have some other ones from the chat. What advice would you give to a team just starting out with the More4apps ERP Cloud Toolbox? Give me advice on starting out with our product.
So I think from my side, and I'm sure Andrew will add to this as well, but from me as the customer side, it was really what we ended up spending time on was actually the Oracle configuration, not the configuration needed for accommodating More4apps, but because we were setting up the receivables at the same time, and the actual piece that was sort of launching the More4apps part was very straightforward. And I wouldn't be here on these calls if that wasn't the case. I'm very impressed with how easy that was. So I'm not here, for any other reason. So from my perspective, there's good material that's provided for the launch, for the implementation, and for us it was very quick to make the connection and start using it.
Okay, great. I only have one more, but if anyone else has other questions, feel free to throw it in there. Let me just get it. And I think you touched base a bit on this a little bit. You already talked about it a little bit, but maybe you can expand on it. It was, what feature did you find the most helpful or valuable? I think you touched base on the data validation, but
Yeah,
there
no,
could be more to it.
I think I think the fact is, like, you have this add-on in Excel, and guys, you apologize if I'm using the wrong terminology, but you have this add-on in Excel. You know, if you have an accountant team, they're used to that. They're used to Excel. They're used to that. That could be an add-on. And when it's time to do the upload, you're asking your accountant to work with one spreadsheet, not multiple spreadsheets. So if you have FBDI, you need to sort of line up multiple sheets for one upload. Even if it's just one invoice, you need to use multiple sheets because the data is sort of organized differently. Like I said, header versus lines and so on and so forth. But with a More4apps solution, it's just one sheet, which makes it, you know, I think more intuitive for the Excel user. And also the fact that when you're pressing the upload button, if you will, you will get a message back immediately saying if there is an error. So it will tell you, you know, this field is missing, or, you know, something is wrong. And the fact that you have that immediate feedback for the user, for the end user, that's really helpful. And again, with FBDI, you need to go in, you need to, you know, pick up the file through a process that you schedule, and then you have to go and look at an error log and try to figure out what went wrong. That's not how the More4apps solution works. It gives you the feedback in the sheet right away. And the third piece that, you know, personally I thought was also, you know, quite helpful was that while I was working together with the accounting managers and just seeing them as they learned the system. And one thing that was very helpful was that they could take an invoice that was already in the system, an existing invoice. They could download it to the spreadsheet, and then they could see, okay, these are the fields I need to populate. And then they could use that information to sort of send up a new invoice. And that sounds like maybe banal, but it was actually super helpful. And we used it in the training as well. And we also used it for troubleshooting as we were working with Oracle to set up the receivables. We would, you know, key in an invoice manually in the user interface, then download it to the More4apps spreadsheet, and then we would, you know, use that information to upload sort of invoices and try to figure out, okay, what is it in the configuration of the receivable side that we don't like or that we want to change. So I think in a nutshell, those were the pieces that I really liked.
Awesome. That's great. Well, I don't have any other questions. Gareth, Pehr, would you like to say some parting words before I close this out?
I'd like to take the time to thank Pehr for presenting this session this afternoon. Been very helpful, and hopefully the audience has found it insightful in terms of giving some feedback into his experiences and his transformation journey to the cloud. And I'm sure Pehr would be happy to answer any further questions after the session as well. So if you do have any further questions for Pehr, reach out to me and I can direct them across to him.
Oh, I actually did get another one real quick. Does
Go for it.
More4apps download/upload AR auto invoice lines that are stuck in the interface? So, Andrew, you want me to repeat that one for you?
Yeah, I'm not too sure. I think I have to look at this one, but the AP invoice tool I think is using the web services, so I don't think it'll deal with the what's in the tables, the interface tables, but I'm not 100% sure. That might be one that we could probably give feedback after. I don't want to speak to the wrong answer there. Most of our tools are using online services, so basically APIs. So they would immediately create the record rather than have you do the process of doing the interface import. So I'm not sure that it's key for that. That's something that the ADFDI tools do. But you would be creating them and getting the result immediately without them sitting in those tables if you were using our products. But I should take that away just to make sure that I'm speaking 100% the truth with that particular integrator.
Sounds good. I'll make note of it and I'll send it over to you. Okay, great. Pehr, any final parting words?
No, thank you for listening. And like I said before, you know, I think for the particular use case that we had with the B2B invoices, you know, More4apps was a bit of a lifesaver for me in a very stressful moment of the implementation. And you know, coming here and talking about that experience is something I'm happy to do. And yeah, thank you for inviting me here today.
Yeah. And I'll close it out. And thank you, Andrew, Gareth, and of course, Pehr. And thank you for everyone for joining us today. Like I said, I'll send out the recording tomorrow. And if you have any other follow-up questions, we can always pass that on to Pehr. Just feel free to reply to the email that's sent out tomorrow. But yeah, but just thank you so much for sharing EF Education's first story. And I hope everyone has a great rest of your day.